Forgets an apology. Labour MP Alva Batiste is not only sticking to his statements about United Workers' Party leader Alan Chasney, but he's throwing two local media workers into the mix. Speaking to party faithful gathered in VA4 South on Sunday, Batiste says there is no reason to retract his statements, reiterating that Chasney is not fit to lead Saint Lucia.
When I said that Alan Chasney shall never emerge as Prime Minister, immediately after I said, within the parameters of the law and within the parameters of democracy. This is what I said. And I stand by those things.
The Labour MP has also taken a swipe at two local media workers, who he says were discussing him and may have too much time on their hands.
And listen to who's on the media talking. Andre Paul and Charlie, who gossips every morning. We must look for a job for Charlie. Because you see, the devil always finds work for idle hands. We must find a job in the STEP program for Charlie. Give Charlie an opportunity to experience the kind of vibes that come with the STEP program. You know, we must not discriminate. We must look for a little job for Charlie. Are you telling me because of Charlie and Andre Paul, I will not speak in the country of my birth? Absolutely not.
And adding his voice to the ongoing public debate over the confrontation between parties at the opening of the Sufra Bridge, the minister made it clear this would not have occurred in his constituency.
If we were opening a bridge in Labour and Alan Chasney and his supporters came there creating problems, I would ask the police to intervene and arrest them. You see, I wouldn't go and fight with Alan Chasney. I wouldn't go and shake his hand or look for any kind of row with him. I would ask that the police bring this thing under control. That's how I operate. I always protest as a Christian with endless dignity.
The minister maintains that Alan Chasney lacks the grounding needed to lead the country, starting with the required knowledge of and entrenchment in local culture. He says Chasney is not leadership material, and he will make no apology for this statement. Clement Charlie Charles is one half of the Out Goes In duo. In August, the hosts requested that the Labour MP and government minister backpedal on comments he made about the leader of the United Workers' Party. On Sunday, Charles and his co-host Andre Paul came under a scathing attack from the External Affairs Minister at a political event in VA4 South. The Labour MP dismissed the two as gossipers and Charles as idle.
And listen to who's on the media talking. Andre Paul and Charlie, who gossips every morning. We must look for a job for Charlie. Because you see, the devil always finds work for idle hands. We must find a job in the STEP program for Charlie. Give Charlie an opportunity to experience the kind of vibes that come with the STEP program. You know, we must not discriminate. We must look for a little job for Charlie. Are you telling me because of Charlie and Andre Paul, I will not speak in the country of my birth? Absolutely not.
However, Charles, popularly known as Charlie, says he will not be dragged into a mudslinging match with the minister and says it is time for a change in local politics.
The old style of politics where personal attack and mépris, you have to forget about that. A politician wants to represent us. Let him discuss issues, what's affecting his country, what he's going to do for his community. Personal attack, I've never done that, and I'm not going to start today.
For his part, Andre Paul chastised the minister for his platform rhetoric on Sunday. He says the minister needs to exercise humility.
When you call him an enemy of the state, we said we think you should apologize. And as a matter of fact, what we think doesn't really matter. It's up to you to decide if you want to apologize. Okay? And you're showing from your attitude, sir, that you're not willing to humble yourself. Who you think you are at the end of the day? You're human, you're a Saint Lucian like anybody else. You want to feel, you stay on your high horses and think as though because you're talking among your friends and they're all clapping for you, you know, that you're something so great, so special. Let me tell you something, Charlie. There's a song called Where Are They Now? You heard that song?
Yeah.
Where Are They Now? Okay? The easiest thing to forget is a politician, you know.
The Out Goes In team also challenged the minister and Labour MP on the matter of a local fisherman reportedly stranded in Panama. The original report on the verbal onslaught on the media workers gained widespread exposure, with callers taking to the airwaves on local radio and St. Lucians at home and abroad airing their views via social media.
Lionel Ellis says the media in St. Lucia should be very much concerned by what he says was Alpha Baptiste attack on them. Mr. Ellis says that over time, there have been previous such attacks on the media, and the recent statement by Mr. Baptiste is unbecoming, no matter where the statement was made. He feels that the Labour MP, who is also the Minister for External Affairs, International Trade and Civil Aviation, should be disciplined.
The technology is such that your message can go around the world. So this question of over my dead body is not something that you should hear from a minister. And these are excuses that can only be made by their own party hacks. I think that the minister should be disciplined. I really feel that the minister should be made to resign and move from that position, because he's not speaking only to his people in Labour, he's speaking to the people of the world.
The statement by the Labour MP, Alpha Baptiste, relating to the media was made at the recent ruling party meeting in VA4.
Yes, the boy back up in the pit. And listen to who's on the media talking. Andre Paul and Charlie, who gossips every morning. We must look for a job for Charlie, because you see the devil always find work for idle hands.
In light of the Labour MP statement, Lionel Ellis, a former general manager of Radio St. Lucia, who now owns and operates his own radio station, believes that media personnel have the responsibility to defend each other when they are attacked. He believes at this juncture, the Media Association of St. Lucia should have already issued a statement in response to the comments by Mr. Alpha Baptiste.
We're chicken shy here, because a lot of the media personnel are depending on their jobs, and they're not media owners, they're media workers. But I have no problem with that, because even as a media worker or media owner, I feel that it's my right to condemn that kind of action. And when it's endorsed by members of the government party or the ruling party, and the Prime Minister himself says nothing about that, except that he even goes further to take on other people who are trying to deal with the politics of the day, I think it's a serious thing.
As far as Mr. Ellis is concerned, the Media Association of St. Lucia now should formally write to the Prime Minister and the Labour MP asking for a withdrawal of his statement and an apology.
In a press release issued Thursday, the Media Association said it is dismayed at recent comments made by External Affairs Minister Alpha Baptiste, directed at the hosts of Radio 100's program Out Goes In, Andre Paul and Clement Charlie Charles. The minister accused the two of being idle gossipers and suggested that Charles get a job with the STEP program. The association has described the minister's comments as unfortunate, misguided and unprofessional. Vice President Delia Dolor says they were personal rather than professional.
It is indeed lamentable and unbecoming of a government minister, especially of the stature of Mr. Baptiste, as the country's representative of the interests of St. Lucians on an international scale, to resort to name-calling and derogatory statements of the two announcers.
Dolor says the minister should have exercised a greater level of maturity. She says he needs to apologize for his words.
The minister's comments can only be construed as anti-media and an attack on democracy and a danger to the livelihoods of media workers in general and the two media practitioners in question in particular. The Council requests that the Honourable Alpha Baptiste withdraws his unfortunate comments immediately.
The association is calling on political party leaders to enforce a code of conduct to avoid a future recurrence. It is also calling on members of the media to be vigilant and report any attempts of intimidation and threats to media freedom. The External Affairs Minister declined comment on the issue when asked by members of the media on Thursday.
National Security Minister Victor Lacobiniere made it quite clear that this is not an attack or an attempt to silence the media. He says for some time now he has been at the receiving end of unfair and in some cases false remarks. He says his government has decided to act decisively in stamping out corruption, and while he has allowed certain comments to slide in the past, he cannot continue to allow them to go unchallenged. As Mr. Lacobiniere puts it, he has to protect his own reputation and that of the office he holds. However, he says he will be considering a proper retraction from the parties involved.
Even where a particular journalist published in a book of his things that were absolutely untrue about me, I let it fly. Because I said in the wash of politics, you cannot set up a situation where the media feel that they're intimidated, they do not want to do their jobs. But what has happened over the last couple months and the last month and week in particular has been a concerted effort to destroy the reputation of certain people in Saint Lucia. And that has been a very concerted and well orchestrated effort. In particular, that effort has been also directed at me, particularly in the last few weeks.
Mr. Lacobiniere says certain media personnel are being used by certain quarters to publish defamatory information in an effort to push their agenda. Mr. Lacobiniere says he's not the only government official who will be taking the media to task. He says that other ministers will also be pursuing legal action. According to Mr. Lacobiniere, more information on that should be released as early as Tuesday.
I have got very clear indications that there are going to be other ministers of government who are going to take action, legal action as well. And I believe that by Monday next week, at the latest Tuesday next week, you will see other ministers of government serving notices on various people in the media. I want to make it clear, though, that this is not an attack on the media. It is not an attack on the media, and I've always said that in every organization, in everything, there are those who keep to the highest of standards. But what has happened over the last few months and what has happened within the last week is the lowest of standards that we can potentially see in the journalist community, and that has to be stopped.
Commenting on Caribbean News Now, which initially published the information, Mr. Lacobiniere says there are certain challenges to overcome when it comes to online media, but he says he's in the process of overcoming those hurdles, and once that is done, he will be taking those responsible to task.
It was just last week that National Security Minister Victor Lacobiniere announced that he would be taking legal action against talk show host Timothy Polio and Radio Caribbean International. The proposed legal action is over the broadcast of a story related to the revocation of the U.S. visas of former government minister Richard Frederick. The story originated on the website Caribbean News Now, but former Press Secretary Jeff Fady believes the minister's move to sue would be a hopeless cause.
To suggest that within the small confines of Saint Lucia, of a population of 150,000, and certainly not all of them were even listening to what was being said by the media that are being sued, is totally, useless, because the message is out there in the world for literally billions to see. So what are they trying to do? I mean, are they not aware of what is in international communications at the moment? It is worldwide.
Mr. Fady says the Labour government's announced intention to create a national broadcasting network by merging the National Television Network and Radio St. Lucia is testimony to the way the administration views the local media.
As far as I'm concerned, this is a very dangerous trend, because we live in a democratic society, and the fact is that there are instruments of government, for example, the GIS, as well as Radio St. Lucia. And Radio St. Lucia in particular, it is very close to my heart, because that's where I started my career. It seems to me that one of the qualifications to work specifically the Labour Party government under the leadership of Kenny Anthony, that they want to control everything. But this will never work. It will never be successful.
Jeff Fady says such action is aimed at manipulating the media. The former press secretary says it seems that the aim of the SLP government is to control everything, particularly the media. But he says the government's attempts will fail.
It's already changed. He's already changed. And you wonder about this because the Radio Caribbean is owned by a Labour Party stalwart, and you wonder what's going on.
And it's in that regard that Mr. Wayne says it is interesting now that the media is under pressure, that anyone thinks that they can, in his words, scare the pants off them.
I was thinking it might be a nice retaliatory move if all the media houses decided they were not going to cover political activities. And by political, I mean government as well. And then I thought, well, what would be the point? Because the government has its own cameramen and whatnot. I'm not too hot on this, so I don't know if they can. They have NTN. I don't know if NTN can function without other involvement. I don't know. But they certainly have Radio Saint Lucia and whatever. So I don't think it would prove any point. But having said that, and having also said that I think the media has rendered itself so soft and so without muscle.
According to Rick Wayne, it would be a nice retaliatory move by what he called the gutless media, not to cover political or government activities.
The only retaliatory move would be that journalists do their job even better. You know, that might be a nice retaliatory move. When you're interviewing a politician, stop playing games. Ask about his background. Like during the campaign, there were at least 4 politicians who could have done with some serious background checking, and nobody cared enough to do about that. So the media has contributed a lot to this mess that we're in today, and it's ironic that some of that mess is falling on our faces.
Rick Wayne, owner of the Star newspaper, made no bones about the state of the media to date, while being very critical of the Saint Lucia media. He says that as a result of the current situation, and if things continue as they are, politicians may well take advantage and have their way with the Saint Lucia media.
This sacrificing of Timothy Pauline that's going on right now is a sacrificing of the people, you know. Just imagine that if all the media closed down and the only voice you heard was the voice of the government, because bet your life, if the media closed down, you will not hear the voice of the opposition in our circumstances, whoever the opposition might be. Okay, so you're only going to hear the voice of the government. Imagine that state of affairs, but it's close. And again, I am blaming to a large extent not despotic governments, but pathetic media. I keep on saying, quoting Sir Vincent Flosat, who made the point at a particular media awards ceremony, that the law is very much on the side of journalists. They just don't know it.
Rick Wayne says he had his fair share of lawsuits and believes such suits are an attempt to muzzle the media.